And now we'd like to welcome the Reverend Chris DiGiorgio.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much to Nick and Joseph and all the New Thought of Eastern Long Island community. I'm so glad to be back. Last week, Rabbi Dan Geffen defined power and mostly how we use it in the external world. He talked about the good uses of power and the not so good uses of power. He shared with us thinking of power as a noun and a verb, and he argued maybe our efforts should be looking at how we use power to empower ourselves. In other words, an external focus. And I'm going to take a different tact today because I thought his talk was really excellent. But when we talk from a unity perspective or a new thought perspective, we always see change comes from within. How do we work internally with ourselves so that we can bring out ourselves to a better life? And so we are resetting our lives with power. So in the book Power Up Your Life by Holton, and Hasselbeck, power is defined as claiming mastery, commanding authority of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, expressing prerogatives and preferences. With this in mind, the power of power is an important power we all have. And this discussion is going to look at power from the internal so that we can change our lives to the external. In other words, we're resetting our lives with power. Here are the words of this definition: claiming authority and expressing prerogative and preferences. This means we can reset our lives by the words we use. We can reset our lives by the prayers we do. We can reset our lives by the thoughts we choose to act upon. We can reset our lives in what we choose to believe in. The words, thoughts, and actions set up our lives for what is ahead. We can command our lives through our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, and our actions. The New Thought Center and all unity and spiritual centers for spiritual living around the world emphasize we're praying communities. Prayer is part of resetting our lives with power. Prayers are words. Words are powerful because every word we say is a prayer. A word at its core is an idea. We often don't think about it in those terms. We string words together, and maybe out of habit something is said, and it may not make much sense, or it may be the most profound statement. These words can resonate or not, but the words we say have power. Think of this simple word, and. What comes up with the word and? Just that simple word can bring a flood of ideas. It's a word that puts two words together, for example, or two names together. We think of linking two things just by the word and. Our brains put meaning to just that simple word and thoughts surrounding that simple word. And that word has power because it links together words. It gives us an idea. From a new thought perspective, words have power by the very nature of words because they describe ideas and thoughts that come from our divine mind. Back in the late 1920s, Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, came up with the 12 powers of man. To recap, these powers are faith, strength, judgment, love, power, imagination, will, understanding, order, zeal, elimination, and life. All of these are internal powers that we have that can be brought out to the external. Each of these powers are all within us, and we can summon them at any time. They are qualities we all have and are our birthright as children of God. I once was asked by another Unity minister, "What's your favorite power?" And I said, first, it's like asking what's your favorite child. But since you asked, I said power. The minister was kind of surprised. He said, well, why not love? Why not faith? Why not imagination? Power was kind of shocking. Now, if you think of it superficially and not metaphysically, you'd think I'm some sort of power hungry guy. But the power of power really allows us to take charge of our lives by reconditioning our minds. As the definition said before, we're claiming our authority, we're claiming our mastery. In many ways, the power of power is the hammer in our spiritual toolbox. It's one of the mainstays in the truth student's toolbox. This power is our reset button. How many times in our lives have we had to reset a situation? Power reminds us that just as the situation is there, we have the power to change a situation with our words. That is power in a nutshell from a New Thought student's perspective. By our words, we have the power to change our lives, to see things differently. So that is why I say it's my favorite power. Now, the others do have a place. How can we forget love, faith, or understanding? But power is the reset button. And power is often linked to the 12 powers, the other 12 powers, the power of love, the power of faith, the power of imagination. We express all these powers with the power of power. With each of the powers has a region in the body where the power is from. And for power, it's the throat area. And think about that. This is where our voice comes from. Our voice is where our power is, and that's where our language is. In short, it's our expressing power. It starts the manifestation that we see here. It's Black History Month, and think about Dr. King for a moment and the I Have a Dream speech. We could call that speech powerful because it moved many people. It galvanized the movement. How can you say that speech was powerful without hearing it? The words on the paper have impact, but the speaking of those words make it infinitely more powerful. And would it have been the same impact if, let's say, Truman Capote gave the speech? I think not. He was a great writer, but it was the power of Dr. King's voice that brought it power and helped manifest the changes that brought about the Voting Rights Act and the dismantling of Jim Crow. Power is words. This power comes from internal and is brought out to the external. This power conditions our mind, and those words become prayer. So power summons the God particles together to formulate the substance so creation can take place. That is why the power of love, the power of faith, the power of imagination can be formulated. Power is the first step in prayer. That's why it's my favorite. And as I said, power is the words and voice. To give an example of this, Jesus spoke at the tomb of Lazarus. He said, "Come out, Lazarus," and Lazarus did. If we look at it from a New Thought student's perspectives, words gave power to change substance and a new reality is created. Here's another example. I recently got my second COVID vaccine shot, and I was told by numerous people, be prepared, you'll be sick the day after, take the day off, take some leave. Sure enough, the next day I had a fever and I was sluggish. A few days later, I was teaching about healing in my Westchester Sunday service, and as my practice, after my talk, I allowed people to share. I did not talk about my experience the previous week about my COVID vaccine, but one of the congregants talked about her and her husband's experience about their COVID vaccine. She relayed she too was told to expect the worst, but instead her and her husband prayed. They used the power of their words in prayer, using their imaginations. They affirmed that only perfect health was being shot into their arms. They visualized golden light and God's presence going into their arms. Well, I was just busted. Here I am talking about healing, and I got the best example of how the power of power works. They affirmed only good was going into their arms, only health was going into their arms. They used the power to affirm their good. So to reset our lives, let's use the acronym POWER. That is to help us use power in a more accessible way. Remember, we're saying power is words, voice, and the reset button. It is the charger to all the other powers. So P stands for prayer. To reset any situation, we start with prayer. Find words. Use your voice to deny and affirm the situation you're in. Remember, denial is the ability to release the energy and power we have invested in old beliefs that don't serve us. And we affirm newer beliefs that do serve us. We're formulating words that reset our lives. It's the start of the reset button. Remember, we start with prayer because prayer is the best way to change a situation we find ourselves in. To go back to the vaccine example, I could have said, I deny the thoughts this shot and the thoughts around me with getting sick have any power over me. And I could affirm only good comes to me with this shot, that only healing energy goes into my body. See how I condition my mind differently? O stands for orient. Yes, prayer starts it off, but we must orient or move ourselves towards the situation we want to be in. Ask yourself, what pattern am I doing that is perpetuating the old belief system? What is orienting me there? What can I change? You may need to go back to prayer for this step, and that you may need guidance in what to orient, to ask God, show me how I can do this differently. How do I orient myself to this new way of life to do something differently? Recently, I asked guidance about my eating habits. In fact, I've been frustrated with late night snacking. I prayed for orientation, and what came to me was my sleeping habits. And what was said was go to bed early. So that's what I've been trying to do. W stands for work. Yes, things and situations may occur, and prayer and orientation, but they surely come when you put your work to it. If you want a job, you must put your energy to find a job. If you want health, you must rest, drink fluids, take medications, pray, but you work to put yourself in a healthy picture. Put action to your prayer. For my late night snacking, the work is getting to bed early. E stands for expect. I want to give a shout out to Adele. She put that in her meditation. Expect your good. Have faith that all my good is coming to me. Doubt surely douses the flames of your good. Doubt stops you from the work. It breaks your energy. So expect your good. Have faith in the good that is coming. Expect your work in the world will make a difference. R stands for receive. Be a willing vessel. Sometimes after we pray, we orient, we work, we expect something comes to us, and it's not exactly what we expected. And sometimes we're not gracious receivers. It comes in a different way. No matter what, be willing, allow. We would like to control the time and place our blessings come. Control is not power. We limit our power when we try to control. Allow and receive all that comes. So remember, we can reset our lives with power. Power starts with our words and thoughts. It's an inside job. We do it with prayer, orienting ourselves, working at it, expecting it, and receiving it. And so it is. Amen.